are still up and joining us live, my friends in the Philippines. So welcome to another episode of Ask the Drummer. It's part two of the what I call Joe McKechnie extravaganza. And I know he said it's not really extravaganza, but it is. So it is, yeah. It's part two with Joe McKechnie, and today's episode is actually we're going to be talking to him about his Manchester music scene connection. Because last week we talked about his the Liverpool bands that he was in. Today it's about Manchester, and also if you were here last week, I think you'll know the reason why I had to split it into two because last week it was like 2 hours, and that was just sort of like the Liverpool side. So today, hopefully, it's not going to be another 2 hours. Maybe just sort of like an hour and a bit. But yeah, it's about Manchester. It's about his DJing and his record label, and of course, Vic Goddard as well, and much, much more. So I'm so happy. I'm so happy that he's here again on Ask the Drummer. He's back on the show. So, my dear friends, please welcome back Joe McKechnie. Oops, where is it? There you go.
Hey,
Hey!
power to the people.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah,
Your
I've
room
lost
is
it. I've,
okay.
I've lost a tooth since we last spoke, but
No way. Oh
yeah, yeah.
gosh. Well, I hope your room
I
is
didn't
still okay.
lose it. It was taken.
It was. It's a lot cooler than last week because
Doors open, windows open. Let's go.
brilliant. Yeah. Because last week you said that it's almost like a sauna. So two
Yes,
hours.
yes. I didn't realise how hot the equipment in here was going to get.
Yeah, and you still got that tube. So like is it an amplifier? An
Yes,
amplifier or something like yeah, yeah.
yeah. The
So
preamp.
yeah, yeah, okay. I mean, like I said, I'm still quite fascinated of the work, the amount of so like it's so amazing. I mean, we talked about the Liverpool one,
Yeah,
and I'm still trying to sort like see because of course, I googled your name, uh, but there's not really much information about you
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. I've managed to, fly under the radar until now, really.
until now. Yeah. Yeah, so today we're actually going to be talking about your connection with the Manchester music scene and
Yes.
everything else that we didn't talk about last week. So, right, it's I think what it is when I googled your name, there's not much information. I think what it is it's very seldom that you get drummers as spokesperson for a band.
Yeah.
Maybe some, but
Yeah,
it's
we're an
always
oppressed minority.
yeah, it's always like when journalists are like wanting to know more about a band, they always ask the singer
Yeah,
or
that's okay. It's usually the person who writes the words to the songs and stuff like that. It's stuff that that's the kind of thing you can ask questions about.
yeah, yeah. But it's because you were sort of like watching live when John Maher was on the show
Yeah,
because I think there's sort of like some similarities with you and John, between you and John Mark. Because I searched YouTube for some of the like Buzzcocks video clips, and I mean he wasn't really sort of like saying much. It's more Pete Shelley and Steve Diggle. So
yeah, yeah.
so maybe that's the reason why when he was on the show, it was like 3 hours as well of John Maher. So I thought maybe okay,
Letting it all out.
we'll split it this time. We'll have so like 2 hours for the first half, and then hopefully it'll just be
Yeah, yeah.
so like
Let's keep it to an hour.
yeah, yeah. um, I'm sort of like wondering as well because you posted recently on Facebook a photograph of you drumming. Um, it's for the what do you call it? The concert for against racism,
Oh,
rock against.
The Northern Carnival, the one the
Yeah,
Buzzcocks
rock
and
against
Steel Pulse
racism.
played. Yeah,
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 but
yeah. I was in a
you
group that
didn't
played on
actually. You didn't play at the concert. You were so like
on the
on
march
the bus.
to the park.
Oh right. So
There was a march from the centre of Manchester to Alexandra Park, and we played on the back of a back truck as part of the march.
right.
And so
So
we played all the way to the park, and
yeah,
then we parked up in the park and then watched Buzzcocks and the rest of
yeah.
it.
Which band were you so
It
like?
was the band that became group that became Modern Neon.
Oh right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you were still so like because this is 1978, right? So
is it? Yeah, yeah. The carnival against the Nazis.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Um,
John talked about it, didn't he? In
yeah,
his yeah.
yeah. That's right. And so how old were you at the time?
17, something like that.
So you're
18.
pretty much sort of like the same age because I think John Marr was only like 18 years old at the time when he played that rock against
Yeah.
racism. So yeah, did you actually did you know him or did you
No,
get to
I mean,
meet
I met, they had a launch for Another Music in a Different Kitchen. They had a launch in Virgin Records in Liverpool, which I went to on the Saturday afternoon.
yeah
Um, and they released some. They were going to release some balloons with tags where you could send in and get a free copy of the LP.
yeah
Which made me make Frank, the lad from Virgin Record Shop who was taking them up to the roof to release them. We just had a quick word with him and got two balloons off him before he released them. So we got copies of the LP with the plastic bag, the carrier bag, Buzzcocks carrier bag, and a poster. Um,
right
and the Buzzcocks were playing in Eric's that night, so we ended up. Um, the group I was in at the time, Transistors, we ended up spending the day with Buzzcocks up until they went to do sound check for Eric's, and then we went to the gig later on. So we
yeah.
hung out with them. We went to a cafe and had tea and a sandwich and stuff with them. But other than
Yeah.
that, no, didn't know them.
Well, with both of you being so young and both of you drummers being drummers as well, did you sort of like get some kind of a connection?
Um, no, really, I spoke to, we spoke more to Pete Shelley and Steve Diggle, really. Um,
Right? Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, can you just tell me more about because a lot of people are actually posting about that rock against racism nowadays because of what's been happening.
yeah.
So, what was that like? Because you were there, but you were sort of like part of the march.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was great. You know, it was that was I did the London one where the Clash played in London. I did that march from Trafalgar Square to what, Victoria Park, was it in London? I can't remember. Anyway, the Clash and all that. Went to that one. Went to so did that march, and then we did the Manchester one. I was one of the people who helped organise Rock Against Racism gigs that used to happen at Eric's on a Thursday night. I helped run those. So yeah, did quite, it was quite a unifying moment, when all that
Yeah.
happened,
I don't know if you were part of the exhibition that they had. I think it was in 2018, the 40th anniversary of that Rock Against Racism. So, like the carnival. I think it was in You. I remember going to that one.
Yeah.
It was around September, I think, when they did that. And did you go? Were you part of it, or
No,
were
no, no, no. I mean, I was more involved in the Liverpool side of
okay?
the organisation. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm sure I've still got a poster from that exhibition somewhere. I need to sort of like look it up and see what happened to it.
Yeah, I've got a small collection. There was a magazine, Rock Against Racing magazine, and there was like Kids Against the Nazis. There was a whole range of different things. You know, I think there was a Skateboarders Against the Nazis magazine. You know.
Oh, yeah. Well, talking about posters, I mean, the first thing I've noticed is like you've changed your posters from last week. I mean, last week they were all like Benny Profane and modern, but now you've got like The Fall and you've got Vic Goddard and
Yeah,
things. Yeah, so that's very good. Thank you for doing that. I have got Kit as well. I think I've seen
yeah, yeah.
the Kit there above you. Yeah, Aiden said that sound and picture are very good, so that's
Good,
brilliant.
good.
Right. So first we're gonna talk about the passage because I googled the passage again. It's one of those things because I was telling you earlier before we came on live that the Fall they weren't really that big in the Philippines apart from that creep,
Yeah,
so that's massive. But the passage is another sort of like band because I just realized that they were actually formed in 1978, and
yeah. I mean, Tony Friel, who was the original first bass player in the Fall, left when he left the Fall. It was to form the Passage. He was the first in the first lineup of the Passage. I was in the later version, the 1980 version of the Passage. But Lorraine Hilton and Martine Hilton and Tony Friel and Dick Witz were the original
original.
Passage,
Yeah,
which was a bit more obtuse, really. I
it's
mean,
it's
we remained obtuse to the end to a degree, but
yeah,
you know, um,
it's very like experimental. I mean, I'm thinking of the timeline. This is more like Joy Division time, wasn't it? Like
yeah. Well, I
nine.
mean, basically, the Passage had kind of fallen apart at one point, like 1979, 1980. Um, and then the first LP, Pin Drop, had been recorded and released, and kind of got really good reviews. You know, Paul Morley wrote a full page review in the NME saying, you know, this was the future of Manchester music. The next thing after Joy Division, and a whole big, you know, this is so suddenly the after the Passage kind of fallen apart, and the Pin Drop, the first LP, was going to be the last thing that happened. It was rejuvenated, and that's when myself and Andy Wilson and Lizzie Johnson were brought in to join the group. Dick Witz had seen me because I was running a musicians collective in Liverpool. That Dick Witz was kind of facilitating as his day job in Merseyside Arts. He was helping me coordinate that.
Yeah,
He'd been coming to the gigs that I was organising at Eric's, and he'd seen me playing drums. So he knew when he wanted to revitalise the Passage that I would be able to, you know,
yeah,
drum,
yeah,
play the songs the way he wanted someone to play them. You know.
yeah. But if you actually look at them, I mean, you're always on the photograph with, when you look at like say Google it and then look for image.
Yeah,
You're
well, they always go for the most photogenic, don't they?
yeah, yeah, that's right. But yeah, well,
That's just the price I pay.
well, you became a member of the Passage, but then I realized that you actually left. And one sort of like mistake that I did because when I saw like the guest announcement post, I put this, which I don't really know how to pronounce it. It's
XOYO, yeah, yeah,
XOYO,
yeah.
and I just realized you
The
didn't
hits
actually
that I'm not
play
on.
on.
Yeah, yeah. We never played it live. That one.
Yeah, But I remember you posting about it on Facebook. That's why I just immediately thought, oh, I've got that. I'm gonna
Yeah,
put that. I've got a copy of that single.
yeah. It's just, I mean, anything I do about the passage online, it's, you have to reference that because that's all that most people know. I mean, we're on because we're on Cherry Red Records. Every time Cherry Red does a compilation that they can squeeze us onto, they put us onto. We're on a
Yeah.
million compilations, but I have to say to them, we did record the songs beside XOYO. I think everyone's got that one now.
So what? Why did you leave?
We were a four-piece when I joined, but the first thing we did was at the end of 1980 was we did a Peel session, which was with Lizzie Johnson, our singer at the time, who joined the same as me, and Andy Wilson. Then we signed to Virgin. We had our own label, Night and Day, through Virgin, and we did 2 singles and an LP, and then they dropped us. And after we'd done the first single, Lizzie kind of became disenchanted with the whole group, so she left. So we carried on as a 3-piece. Then we did the second LP, For All and None, and we were getting somewhere. We were getting a lot of gigs. We were doing little tours and things, but we weren't in a position to pay any wages. So I was living in Manchester on people's floors, and I was also still living in Liverpool, and I forever had no money to live, to buy food or anything. So I just had to. I gave it up, because I couldn't sustain
So
it. Basically,
you were living in Manchester, but
yeah.
you're also going back to Liverpool to.
Yes, I was supposed to be doing a flat exchange with Ken, who was the keyboard player in War. He was going to take over my bed sit in Liverpool, and I was going to move into his flat in Hume. And then he stitched me up on the deal and did a runner, disappeared. So,
Oh dear.
I suddenly the place I was going to live in Manchester was gone, and I paid him a lot of money to buy his fridge and cooker off him and all that. He was a bit of a rat, really, and so it just the economics of it were too difficult for me.
But were you also in another band in Liverpool? That's why you're going back, or?
No, it just hadn't made been able to make the full move. I just hadn't been in a position to move into anywhere in Manchester. I had to rely on. So I'd stay on the couch in Dick Witz's flat initially. Then when Andy had a place in Hume near the Crescent, I'd stay around there. But it was always in other people's flats, So, it was just hard work. When I came back to Liverpool, played with the Wild Swans for a while, and then I was asked to rejoin the Passage. And when I went back, it was a much more professional operation. For a while, we had a tour manager and a proper manager, and proper better gigs, So it was a bit easier.
Yes, so you went back.
And then we did the final LP and Flame, and then it's all. I always describe it as we fell into a hole. I didn't personally fall into a hole, but one member of the group fell into a hole, and as a consequence, we couldn't continue. All our equipment disappeared. I lost my drum kit. Andy lost all his guitar and his amps, and his big part of his record collection went missing. And that was the end of that, really. We did some demos, but that was going into recording studios that already had equipment that we could use, because we didn't have any of our own anymore.
But it's so like, do you regret leaving? Because now that looking back, the passage is actually known for this single, which is XOYO, and you
Yeah.
didn't play on it. Do you sort of like think that, oh, I should have stayed and played
Well,
more of the hit?
not really. What as I say, it wasn't. I couldn't stay. It wasn't an
You
option.
couldn't, yeah.
Um, I tried to stay. Manchester at that time as well was coming from the kind of musician community that I'd known in Liverpool to the one in Manchester. It was a bit more insular, well, a lot more insular in Manchester. It was kind of it was hard to kind of get things going with people. Socialising.
Oh, I see.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, um, I mean, the next question I wanted to ask you is, I mean, I mentioned earlier that I don't think the passage even, you know, got us. I don't think it reached us in the Philippines. I could be
yeah,
wrong, but I've never sort of like seen any of my Filipino music friends
yeah,
uh, posting about the passage or talking about the passage.
yeah. I mean, we played in Europe, and there was the group toured America
Yeah.
while I wasn't with them. Our last ever gig was in a sports stadium in Athens. Um, that was the last time we played. Um, New Order and the Fall had played a couple of months previously, and then the second gig that they put on him was the Passage and the Monochrome set,
Okay.
and that turned out to be our final gig. We didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
We had a good other gigs lined up, but we weren't in a position to play them.
And then you just saw like, you know, the group so like disbanded, and then that's it. That was
Well, yeah, didn't disband it, disintegrated. Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mentioned this to John Ma when he was on the show that not until Morrissey and the Smiths so like arrived in the scene that all of a sudden Manchester became the center of the universe. Everyone from all over the world is heard of Manchester because of Morrissey and the Smiths.
yeah.
Now you've got a story about Morrissey because um,
Well,
I
he
mean,
auditioned for the Passage. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I don't actually. I mean, I first met Morrissey well before the Smiths. He used to do he did like a essentially what was his scrapbook of cuttings, newspaper cuttings, music press cuttings of stories about the New York Dolls. He must have had a scrapbook and cut out all every mention of the New York Dolls in the NME and Sounds and Melody Maker, and
yeah,
he put them together. He ended up putting them together and photocopying them all and selling them. And I worked in a bookshop in Liverpool called Progressive Books. I used to get told off by the manager for answering the phone and saying, "Hello, Aggressive Books." Um, Progressive, stop shouting. Um, but Morrissey used to bring in his fanzine, and we used to sell it for him. And we used to pay him in advance, even though we didn't have much money coming into the bookshop. We'd pay him in
yeah.
advance so that he could go and get some more copies, photocopies of his. So that's the first time I met Morrissey.
Wow.
Well before the Smiths.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember his audition for the Passage, so he can't have made that much of an impression. Um,
Wow.
and then
So I'm
I
gonna
went to
ask.
the first Smiths gig. I went to the first Smiths gig because I knew Mike Joyce, the drummer, before he joined the
Yeah.
Smiths. Um, so they played at Manhattan Bar. It was their first
Is
proper gig. I
is
think
that
they
in
played.
Manchester?
Yeah, it was like a kind of chrome and glass kind of gay bar in Manchester. Um,
Ooh, wow.
and the Smiths played they played the Ritz, I think, a few songs at someone else's gig and got up unannounced and did a few songs. But the first official gig was at this bar. It was all there, They had the flowers, they had all the songs. Um, they had the guy from Raymond's Go Go Dancing.
Oh my
Uh,
God! Really?
And it was funny because uh, after they played, we were all sat around the table, and they'd invited Tony Wilson to come and see them, and he was there. And he came over while we were all sat around this table and said, "Thanks for inviting me, loves, but you're not a factory band." And he left, and said he didn't want to sign them. And I always think he signed. I always think he signed James because he missed out on the Smiths.
Oh my god! So you were actually at the very first The Smiths gig. You were
Yes.
there. You saw
Yeah.
them right from the start.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm
It's
gonna
funny
ask
because
you.
a couple of years later,
Yeah.
or a year later, a couple of years, I was in the hacienda with Johnny Marr, and I must have thought I was some kind of elder statesman of music because I've been signed to Virgin Records or something. I can't think why, but he was telling me how he was saying we're going to sign to Rough Trade Records and we're going to be on top of the pops. And I said, well, if you want to be on top of the pops, you're not going to get there by signing to Rough Trade. You know, the two things don't go together. So that's how much I know. You know, like it was like 2 minutes later, there they were on top of the pops with their single on Rough Trade. You know.
Well,
So don't come to me for business advice.
so what? So like, cause you saw them, you saw Morrissey. So like when he was just doing his fanzine and you're selling it for him.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts when you actually realized that? Oh my God! You know they're famous. This Smiths are and I, I know this person.
It made the thing that made me think about it more was when his autobiography came out, and he insisted that it be in the Penguin Modern Classics, publishing group, and he made any independent bookshops that wanted to stock it, they weren't allowed to like order like 2 or 3 copies. They had to order a box, or they weren't allowed to stock it. So I was like, well, when you were coming into our independent bookshop and we were paying you in advance so you could print more copies of your fanzine, you know, and now you're screwing over independent bookshops. That says a lot, doesn't it, about what you're like?
Gosh, I was like, but have you seen him since?
No, he wouldn't know. He wouldn't know me. You know, I knew someone who worked as his PA, and someone I know from Liverpool who worked as his PA for a while, and he couldn't hack it. He couldn't carry on working for him. He just couldn't stand listening to the complaining every night. You know. And this is someone who likes to complain, by the way, who told me this.
That's absolutely amazing. Okay, I love stories like that when you're actually, you've been there right from the start.
Yeah.
It's just something that I wish I was already here. I wish I was already in Manchester.
In the bookshop in Liverpool, I inadvertently freaked out Ian Curtis. Ian Curtis came in with a woman, and I recognised him in a chat to him. I was having a chat to him, and it was before Joy Division were nationally known again. Well, they were known, but anyway, I thought he must be possibly doing a secret gig in Liverpool. So I was making sure that you're not playing tonight anyway. No, we're just visiting. But he kind of got freaked out and ran out the shop. It was only when all the information came out later that I kind of realised it was probably with Aniek, from Belgium.
Yeah,
and he thought he wasn't going to be recognised in Liverpool, but he didn't know that he was going to meet me.
And you're the sort of person that wants to know a lot about musicians, and because you're being a musician yourself.
Yeah.
God, that's absolutely amazing.
So it was nice to meet him, but I didn't realise I was going to freak him out.
Yeah.
Because the first time I saw Joy Division was when I went to see the Passage, when I'd been kind of approached about possibly joining.
Yeah.
Um, the Passage and Joy Division played at Eric's for Amnesty International.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I saw both groups. Tony Field was still playing in the Passage at that point, and Lorraine.
Yeah. It's just absolutely amazing. It's just fascinating to hear about. And you said that you already know Mike Joyce as well, so you're like friends with
Yeah, I
him.
mean, I've tried to refresh his memory on that since, but he doesn't seem
He doesn't
to.
remember you.
I knew it. There was a club that wasn't really a club. On Oxford Road in Manchester, there was a War on Want bookshop, and on a weekend they had a
Yeah.
club in the basement that wasn't really a club. It was after everywhere had closed. You used to bring your own booze, and it was called the White Noise Club, and a group would play
Yeah.
unannounced, um, and it'd usually be someone who was just being promoted as being the next big thing in the music press. They'd be playing at the White Noise Club, and that's where I knew Mike Joyce from. But I asked him about it a few years ago, and he didn't remember any of this. I don't think he even remembered the White Noise Club, but it existed. I went there, and so did he.
And of course, there are no photographs at the time because we didn't have any mobile
Yeah,
phone at the time.
yeah. It was nice. It was a good little. It was a good little scene. Very much. A little commute. That was like somewhere in Manchester at that time where you'd go and you'd see the same people every week.
Yeah. Would you say that there is like a rivalry between Manchester musicians and Liverpool musicians, or you're all just so like you know
Um,
friends with each other?
I don't know. Some groups will you know the sound bite people, isn't it? Usually the lead singer or uh, who will create a scene out of nothing. They'll do it to get a few lines in
Oh yeah,
live
yeah,
live clickbait. But no, I mean, there's, I mean, when Factory Records started, it was originally going to be uh, Eric's Records and Factory Records together. The first on the first copies of the Factory sample, the first release on Factory, if you look on the actual label, it says
yeah.
Eric's Records as well as Factory Records. Originally, it was going to be a collaboration between
Oh
Eric's and Factory,
yeah,
and then that for whatever reason that didn't happen. Factory went it alone, but originally it was because Tony Wilson was never out of Eric's. You'd see
yeah,
him. I used to speak to him in Eric's gigs
yeah.
there.
Wow. Well, so after the passage, you actually went back to Liverpool and joined Benny Profane. But we talked about Benny
Yeah,
Profane
yeah,
last week.
yeah.
Um,
Balcony and Benny Profane and yeah, a few other
yeah,
things.
yeah. But then, are there any other were there any other Manchester bands that you like joined around
Not
the time?
until no. I took a few years out from life really to care for my mother. So I didn't do anything other than 24-hour. So I didn't.
Did-
I stopped playing music completely or doing anything like that. I did a few radio shows because I could do that from my mum's front room. But yeah, and then I came back. And in 2011,
So
um,
what years did you stop like playing to look after your mum?
um, 2008, 9 till 2011,
Oh, I
something.
see. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so about yeah. So
yeah,
it's mainly the passage, and then you came back after that, and then got
yeah.
into
The first thing that happened was I was booked to DJ at a Subway Sec gig in Liverpool, and then Vic Goddard phoned me up to say the bass player had left. This is just before the gig. Vic's like a big fan of the Passage, but he'd discovered them relatively late, I think. But anyway, so he phoned up just before the gig and said, "Oh, our bass player's just left the group, so our drummer's going to play bass. Can you play drums?" So I said, "Okay, I'll come down to London to learn the songs." He was like, "No, you'll be fine, you know." Playing all the classics without a rehearsal. So that's what happened. So that was my reintroduction to drumming. I think.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And as a consequence of doing that, Martin Brahmer then asked me that they had an LP out and their drummer had left, and so they needed a drummer to do some gigs for the LP, and so I think he'd spotted that I'd just done the Subway Sect kind of short notice gig, so he said, you know, would you be interested in joining Factory Star? So I joined Factory Star, which was Martin's group at the time.
Yeah. But how did you know Vic Goddard? Is it just from the Passage? Was it sort of like just from watching you play drums?
No, he discovered the Passage long after the group had finished.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure whether it was just because I was booked. I can't remember, to be honest, but I think I must have been booked to DJ the gig. He discovered the Passage. He knew he spotted the Passage connection, so he knew.
Yeah.
You know, he'd heard the drumming on the recordings, you know.
Yeah, I've got to say that he's quite a legend, isn't he, Vic Goddard?
Yeah.
So you played in Subway Sect?
Yes, only one gig, and then subsequently we've worked on various music projects, most of which kind of are still unfinished. But I co-wrote a song with Vic on one of his LPs, you know. More recent LPs. He's been very prolific recently, you know. He's done quite a few LPs.
And you're still in collaboration with Vic Goddard?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things unfinished. I did a remix of one of his songs, which ended up being a long drawn out process where Vic liked the remix that I'd done, but decided he didn't like his original singing, any vocal recording anymore. So he re-recorded the vocals, and then I then did the remix again with the new vocals. Then he decided he didn't like his original guitar anymore. And then he re-recorded. Did he re-record the guitar? I think he might have. So I did another remix with the new vocals and the new guitar. And then he decided he liked the remix, but he didn't like the vocals or the guitar anymore. So he was going to write some new vocals over my remix.
What about the drum part?
And then he did that, and then he got Ian Holford, the drummer, to drum on the track, and then he decided that he was going to make it a group track, and everything that I'd done was removed. So by the end of the process, there was a song, but I wasn't involved anymore. But it started off as a remix.
It started off as a remix.
Became a song.
Yeah.
That I'd written. Became a song that I hadn't written.
It's complicated.
That's how it goes when you work with Vic.
But you're obviously a fan.
Yes. Oh, yes. I mean, it's funny. The first I was able to tell Vic a story. Vic came to stay here for a few days. He stayed in the flat here.
Yeah.
with his partner Mandy, and I was out. We were out, and we were near the Empire Theatre, and I was out. I was telling Vic the story about when Buzzcocks started playing bigger venues. I thought that wasn't to the ethos of punk. So I did. I kick myself now, but I didn't go and see Buzzcocks when Joy Division supported them, and I didn't go and see Buzzcocks when Subway Sex supported them because they were playing in big venues.
Oh, nice.
So I remember seeing Vic sat outside the Empire Theatre, say, "Oh, that's Vic Goddard from Subway Sex," but I didn't. If I'd have spoken to him, I would have had to say, "Oh, I'm not coming to see you because I'm protesting against,
Oh,
selling out." So we were sat outside the Empire. I said, "That's the first time I saw you was there, but I didn't speak to you."
do you still think that I mean, punk bands nowadays they just play
Well, I mean, I think I'd gone to the first big gig I did. I went to after all the Eric's gigs and all the other smaller gigs that everyone was going to was Gang of Four and Perubu and Delta 5 at Mountford Hall, Liverpool University. And I just didn't like that distance between group and audience. You're kind of watching something happen off in the distance, and it just didn't have the synergy, shall we call it.
Oh, okay.
That kind of feeling of being directly involved in what was happening on stage, So so for the period after that, I didn't go to any when all the groups started playing at the bigger venues. I didn't want to go and see the little dots in the distance.
I mean, I can understand that.
So I regret it now. I would have liked to see Joy Division on a big stage instead. I mean, seeing them at Eric's was fantastic. The intensity of it was great. And it was funny being in the dressing room afterwards because I wanted to tell them how great they were, but because I was there with the passage, I felt I couldn't say that I like Joy Division better.
But again, it's this sort of thing that if you're a musician, you're supposed to sort of keep it cool. You're supposed to be cool, and I'm in the band, and you can't.
Yeah, well, Joe, at that time, that the cool thing was it didn't exist really. You were all in it together. All for one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Vic Goddard. This I found on Google when I was googling. So what I did is Vic Goddard and Joe McKechnie. So I think it was in 2018 when you did an album called "Singing a Song in Prison."
Oh
so
yes.
All Vic Goddard songs, but sung by various
Yes, basically what happened there was. Vic's wife George had died, and he held a celebration of her life in Barnes, near where he lives in the wetlands, a nature reserve there that they used to go to together. So I went down to that the whole day of celebration. People got up and did reading. Vic wanted me to do a reading, but I wasn't really up to it. He'd written a load of tributes to George on betting slips from the betting office. He likes betting on the horses, Vic.
Right. Okay.
But only on the flat, not over the fences. He doesn't like over the fences. And as a consequence of that, I said, we should do some sort of tribute to George. And I suggested, she was a big supporter of Amnesty International. And originally, the original idea was we were going to get people to do new recordings
Yeah.
So, in fact, we were talking. Pete Shelley was one of the people we were talking about asking, and Edwin Collins, who was at the celebration. We all went to the pub after the celebration. So we were all sat around the table. Uh,
Yeah.
and so Edwin Collins and a few other people, we were going to get all these people to do cover versions of Vic's songs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I was putting it all together, and I started realizing that it was going to be such a drawn out process, that it was going to be too far away from the actual point of the thing, which was a tribute to George.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
after she died, it was going to take so long to get all these people
To record the new
to have all
ones.
the recordings done, and
Yeah.
so I started looking into how many cover versions were already out there, and Vic was like, well, there's this one. Vic kept sending me CDs and records, well, there's this one, and there's this one, and there's this one. So we decided to go down that route. The only original recording was Blue Orchids did Music of a Werewolf, on a Vic song
Oh,
called Music of a
okay.
Werewolf, one of his more
Yeah.
recent songs. So Blue Orchids did that. All the rest was like Jesus and Mary Chain and Orange
Yeah.
Juice, and
Orange juice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And basically what we did was singing a song in Prisoners from a line from the first Subway Sex song, Nobody's Scared. And obviously Amnesty do a lot with people, political prisoners and stuff like that, Amnesty International. So that made sense as a title.
Yeah.
And to avoid all the paperwork with all major record labels, we just made an agreement with everyone that it would only be available for a year, and only as a download, so that I wouldn't have to get into contract negotiations with all the groups who were on major labels. So that's
Oh,
what we
right.
did. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we made 700, 800 quid or something for Amnesty International, selling it on Bandcamp for a year. Bandcamp,
Yeah.
let us keep. They didn't charge us any fees. They gave us all the money they would normally take. So that was that. Yeah, that was just a tribute to George.
I was I was gonna ask about that because it did say because there's still a sampler on Bandcamp.
Yes, I just left that there just so that it didn't disappear completely once the year was up.
Yeah, but then
So
yeah, but then
I made a little DJ mix of it.
yeah, it's just because what I was gonna ask you is because it's only it was released in February, but then the following year it was deleted, and
Yes, that was
it's
just
so
as I say with Jesus and Mary Chain, and I think Polydor and what have you. That was,
okay, yeah. So you weren't just
you
being sort of
didn't want to license anything and get into contractual stuff, because again that would have taken a long time to sort out, and it would defeat the object of the thing, which was
right. I was so you know what I was thinking. It's like, I thought maybe it's you being enigmatic again because sometimes
no, it's just to say paperwork,
because
getting bogged down
you
in
do that. Because sometimes on Facebook you'll post things and then it'll be gone. So like maybe in a couple of days or something. So I was thinking
yeah.
maybe this is the
I
same thing.
usually delete things because I think I'm just being self-indulgent.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so that I mean I can understand the reasoning for it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's true that that's a lot of paperwork, and then I suppose you need to pay as well and things like that if you want
Yeah.
to use it and keep it there. So it wasn't released as there's no physical copy of it. Just sort of like
No, again, it was just we wanted it to be immediate. Is the tribute. This is why it exists.
yeah,
If you want to support Amnesty and you want to remember George, Vic's wife, here it is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay, so through Vic Goddard, Martin Brammer asked you to join his band.
I think he must have realized. Well, I think he must have possibly been aware that I'd done it for for the Bunnymen, the night before the tour, I'd been drafted in as a drummer. I'm not sure, but I think he was aware that I could quickly, because the LP had come out and their drummer had
Yeah.
kind of got a job in London and moved to London, and so they had an LP to promote and no drummer, and I think he was aware that I could kind of,
Do it quickly. You can learn
yes,
songs and play.
yes, to the point that the first gig we played in Manchester, where we'd rehearsed the set. The first song we played on the first gig, when I was kind of feeling a bit stressed about first night nerves and all the rest of it, he announced on the microphone that we don't normally do this, but we're going to play an old Blue Orchid song, A Year With No Head. Now, we'd never practiced this song because we weren't playing any Blue Orchid songs at this point. And he just turned to, after he announced it, he just turned to me and said, you know this one, don't you? So the first time I ever played it was the first song on my first ever gig. That's the kind of person you're dealing with, Brahma.
This is like an Ian McCulloch all over again, isn't it?
Yeah. He did the same when we recorded. We recorded a mini LP called New Sacral in Liverpool in Steve Powell's studio.
Yeah,
and we were going to record 5 songs, and we recorded the 5 songs, and then it's like, okay, we've got all the backing tracks for all 5 songs recorded, and then Martin just stayed on the microphone and said to me, "You've never heard this one before. 1, 2, 3, 4," and I just had to start drumming, and it was a song that I'd never heard, and it's on the LP. That we played it once. I'd never heard it before in my life. We played it once, and that's on the LP. That version. We never played it again.
But it just goes to show how amazing you are as a drummer. They just tell you, okay, even though you've not heard of this before, they trust you. They know that you can do something, and you can do the drum.
Or they just like winding me up. I think that might be more what's going on there.
Well, Martin Brahma, of course, he was in the Fall.
Yes.
And
started the Fall.
Yeah, because I think the Passage and the Fall, there's the connection there.
Yeah. Tony Quayle is the.
Yeah, and apparently Carl Burns as well became a member of the Passage.
Yes, that was. I think he tried out before I joined, and for whatever reason that didn't work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know any more than that about that story.
Yeah. Well, Factory Star.
Everyone auditioned for the Passage,
including Morris.
We're only the best.
No, a Factory Star. This one. Do you know the only reason why I actually found out about Factory Star, because it's it's part of the Occultation record label.
Yeah.
They've released the Wild Swans.
Well, I only found out about that Wild Swans release, which I'm on.
Yeah.
As a consequence of the Factory Star connection. So I found out there was a special limited edition with a book of some sort of the Wild Swans compilation. But I've never seen that. I managed to get a bog standard copy off Nick, but I was too late. By the time I found out it existed, it was gone.
Yeah, that's the expensive one, I think.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I'm on it. The recordings, which are live recordings, which I think Will Sargent made actually, was one from that I'm on, are from the tour we did with the Bunnymen, and they're not great, to be honest, but people like to document things now, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that there's quite a lot of Filipino record collectors who have, they have copies of that.
Yeah,
They're quite expensive actually.
yeah.
So you're on that recording. So some of the drum parts that you did for the Wild Swans are actually on that incandescent.
The live
Yeah,
recordings, yeah, the live,
live. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Wow. And like I said, because I was sort of like purchasing a copy of the coldest winter, for 100 years for the
yeah.
Wild Swans one, and then I was looking at all the other sort of like releases, and I found this Factory Star, and I thought, and I looked at it, it says Martin Brana. I was like, oh, well, let me just sort of like get a copy of it and see if it's good. It's a split single actually. It's got the Granite Shore as well, which
Yeah,
is I believe is the
next.
owner of
Yeah,
Occultation Records.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's his band. Yeah, yeah. So it was Factory Star before, and then you changed the name back to the Blue Orchids.
Yeah, Blue Orchids. Yeah, there's two versions of that story. Uh,
What's your
well,
version of this?
well,
Hmm.
I was asked if Factory Star would play a gig in Liverpool. My friend Revo, who does Evil and
Oh yeah,
promotes,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, is a
yeah,
big promoter in Liverpool for a long time.
yeah.
Um, he asked if Factory Star would support Silver Apples, the American psych electronic psych group, 60s electronic psych group, at the Casimir, which was a much missed venue in Liverpool,
Yeah.
great little venue. So he asked if Factory Star would support Silver Apples, and I said, yeah, we'd love to. I'd seen Silver Apples play when they were still had the original drummer. Who, by the time this gig come round, the drummer had died. There was only one member of Silver Apples left. But anyway, he was playing, and so I just had the thought that although Martin had told me he didn't want to do Blue Orchids, that he wanted to just be Factory Star, I said, well, how about just for this gig, because it would look really good on the poster, Silver Apples and Blue Orchids.
Yeah, yeah.
Would be, you know. Uh, so that was the first Blue Orchids gig was with Silver Apples at Casimir in Liverpool,
Yeah.
and
And
then subsequently carried on. We did a few more gigs. We did a couple of Peel gigs, one in London with Wooden Tops, and uh, one for Rico. He did the Night and Day,
Preston.
and
Is it Rico from Preston?
yes,
But yeah, yeah.
we played at his Peel unpeeled thing, and was it unpeeled? I think it was in Night and Day. That was actually my final gig with Blue Orchids because I left at that point. Can't remember why, but I did.
But is Factory Star anything to do with Factory Records, or is it just something that they came up with?
um, I don't think it was anything specific, but I think it was more to do with Warhol and the factory. All
Oh,
the
okay.
all the factory superstars.
Yeah, yeah,
Andy
yeah.
Warhol's factory stars. Yeah.
Right. And then you just sort of like went back to the
I could
blue.
be making that up. But I think that was it. Somewhere,
I just
somewhere in the mix.
I just realized now that I saw the Blue Orchids at Shine On, but I think by that time you're already gone.
Yeah.
You're not with like the Blue Orchids anymore because they are still going, aren't they?
Oh,
I
going
mean,
strong. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I co-wrote a song on. They've released a lot of really great LPs just recently on Tiny Global. Um, Tiny Global. You'll know that label. It's just a stream of great releases.
Yeah.
But I inadvertently co-wrote a song called "Deeper Than Sin" on the Speed the Day LP. Basically, I'd written a track, an electronic track that Martin was going to do vocal on,
Yeah.
and then logistics got in the way, and Martin decided that he was going to use, because he was recording a new Blue Orchids LP, he was going to use the lyrics that he'd written for my song on the Blue Orchids LP. And then the LP came out, and I was like, "That's my tune." So, like,
Are you credited though?
I'm not on the LP, but I am on the
No.
the PRS. You know, 'cause
Oh, I see.
it was rectified after the record was released, and I pointed out,
That was your song.
yeah,
Are you still in
uh,
touch with Martin Balmer? Because you're doing
yeah,
something for
yeah. I've
House of
just
Gold.
literally last week signed off um, with Martin and John at China Global, a remix for House of All of a
Yeah,
song
yeah,
called "Aim Higher" off the last LP that they had out.
yeah.
So that's coming out on the next House of All release CD. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
whenever that might be, you know. Um,
But what about drumming though? Are you not gonna be?
I did some drumming after Factory Star and Blue Orchids with a group called Star Spangled Banana, which is kind of probe record shop kind of connected people.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, we did a single cover of Nag 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 by Cabaret Voltaire,
Oh,
but
okay.
which I produced. But that was kind of a some people would say high concept. I'd say probably low concept. On the first Cabaret Voltaire LP, the mix-up, they did a cover of "No Escape" by the Seeds, '60s American garage psych group. So we did
Okay.
a cover of "Nag Nag Nag" as if it had been recorded by the Seeds in the '60s.
Oh, I see.
Which was a record shop day single on banana yellow vinyl 7-inch on Agitated Records a few years ago. Um, so I sent it to Mal from Cabaret Voltaire, and I don't think he knew what to make of it, to be honest. Um, he said, "I think I like it."
I think I like it. But is that enough for you when it comes, as far as drumming is concerned? You're not gonna be so.
I got this spinal injury, which causes problems for me in my legs. So I do. I mean, the drumming I did with Star Spangled Banana was just standing up,
Standing
uh,
out.
floor
Yeah.
tom and snare. I did some drumming with an artist called Rowan Reed as well, who's that was just did a couple of gigs, maybe even one. Rowan's the daughter of Jamie Reed, who did all the Sex
Oh,
Pistols covers,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and this red poster here, um,
Right. Okay,
which we can
yeah.
just stay the corner of. Well, Rowan, um, yeah, Rowan is a songwriter, singer in Liverpool, and yeah, did some drumming with her, same floor tom and snare, you know.
Okay, so you still, it's not like you've stopped drumming completely. You're still sort of like,
Yeah, yeah, you know, if someone asked, you know, I've
yeah,
still got drums.
you've still got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, when you're not playing the drums, you again, this is from Google. You got involved in the dance music production, so like,
Yes.
you're a DJ,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you
When the
all,
whole when the Summer of Love stuff kicked off, you know, the 88, 87, 88 house music and
yeah,
hip hop and all those things were all coming through. All of hip hop. I mean, so it's funny. Saw Curtis Blow in Passage did a live in concert TV show in Munich for national TV in
yeah,
Germany. the footage went missing. We've never seen it apart from a couple of minutes after we finished recording. But that's another story. But we did this. We did this like half-hour live in concert at the Alabama Hall in Munich. But while we were there for a few days, we went to a few gigs. Among them was Curtis Blow, who was kind of, this is
Yeah,
1982.
yeah.
One of the early. I was funny talk after the show. I said hello to him and stuff like that, and I think he was a bit freaked out that there was English people at the gig,
Oh,
at the show in Munich,
yeah, yeah.
Even though there was a lot of American ex army and air force people who were running the music business in West Germany at the time, we'd finished their tour of duty in the army bases of West Germany, the American army bases of West Germany, and stayed on, in the rock and kind of ran the rock and roll circuit in Germany,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was funny. But so getting back, what were we talking about? So I was in Benny Profane, and
Dance music.
and then the club thing happened, and I that was just so refreshing to me, something I wanted to be involved in. And then as time was going on, we all used to make mixtapes for traveling to and from gigs, to listen to. Everyone played what you're listening to at the moment, and then so I started putting hip hop and dance stuff on my tapes, and that wasn't going down well with the rest of Benny Profane, so kind of was like. I realised that we kind of, our interests were now diverging. So I left Benny Profane. Started working with a record label called 8 Productions, which was Peter Coyle, the singer from Lotus Eaters. A couple of other people. Ian Wright, who was the engineer and producer and did all the instrumentation stuff. And I started doing the drum programming for them on their releases. We worked with a whole host of different vocalists. Before I got involved, Jane Casey had been involved, and Marina Van Ruby had been kind of picked up by a major label, and
I was gonna ask you about that because when I saw Marina Van Ruby's name, because she's the one in Gene's Not Happening.
Yes.
That's her.
Yes. She was going out with Mick at the time, yeah.
Yeah. So you did some drumming
drum programming.
Drum programming for her song, because she's got I think
not for Marina. Marina had moved on by that point because she'd become licensed. Marina's stuff was licensed to Deconstruction Records.
Okay.
And then 8 Records carried on independently of that, and and then eventually the last recordings that we did were licensed to Produce Records, which was a Liverpool label primarily for the farm. So the last thing we released was on Produce. We thought that was going to be a hit. Actually, we all practiced our dance moves for Top of the Pops, but it wasn't to be. The phone call never came. With 8 Records, there was a studio in Trading Places, which was a kind of a building on Concert Square in Liverpool that had a lot of different people based in there, a lot of different studios, a lot of different artists. Mark McNulty, the photographer, had his studio in there. Part of the 8 setup, actually, Mark. And and Produce was in there.
That's amazing. So you changed actually from your the Passage and Benny Profane, and then you became into
the Passage had been electronic. We'd done because we were a 3-piece. We had synthesizers that could play arpeggiated bass lines. So we'd have at the time, a synth that could play an arpeggiated bass line, you would play the line in and it would play it back for you. But you could only have two, A and B. So you'd have to switch manually between the two while you were performing. So you'd play in the bass line for the verse, save it, play in the bass line for the chorus, save it, and that
That's
would
it.
be. And then you
Yeah.
set it running, and you switch from A to B essentially, whilst trying to play the other keyboards at the same time and do the vocals. We were always very, very busy. But we'd done, we were electronic obviously, but we'd also kind of done sampling before sampling existed. We sampled. We had the voice of JFK Kennedy when he did his speech at the Berlin Wall, and we made a tape loop
Yeah.
of his voice and made a track based on that.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Moby sampled us as well. Moby.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, because I saw that as well on Google. That Moby sampled the passage. So
Yeah. As a consequence, when he played in Liverpool, I DJ'd at his gig, and DJ'd at his after party.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
He was a real record collector. He just went through every record, every Passage record, and wanted to know if he'd missed any. I was like, no, that's everything. He said, I was worried I might not have them all.
So it's one of those sort of like completists, one of the completists sort of like record collectors. So make sure that I've got everything. You've got your own record label as well.
Yes, I started a label called Buffalo Recordings.
Buffalo Recordings.
Yeah. I did 2 records, 2 12-inch. The first was a various artists 4-track EP. 2 of them were me under different names. One was
and one for Will Sargent too. So like Glide.
Well, Bomb first, which was a few members of the Bunnymen. It was Will and Jake and Damon. Was Bomb. So I put them on. They did their first gig for me where I DJ'd in Liverpool, the 051 Club, and they did their first track on my label on that EP, first EP, which is worth quite a bit of money now. I don't have any copies. And then the second release was a Glide Winder, which was Will as Glide and me as the Mindwinder. We did a track each, and then we remixed each other. And that did well as well. And then the distribution company went bankrupt, and all my records were seized as part of the bankruptcy and disappeared into the ether. And so that was the end of the label, because I was owed money. I was never paid for the 2 records that I sold, and I didn't have any copies to finance the next.
How long did you have the label? Not very long.
No, 18 months or something. Yeah. I kind of probably blotted it out of my memory. Such a bad memory now. It's because it was doing very well, and then it was taken down by events that were nothing to do with me.
Oh, it's a shame. So, it seems like you've had your share of all these.
Yeah. So then I'm also doing stuff for Ochre Records at this point. So Ochre Records in Cheltenham, which Will was did Glide stuff for, and Paul Simpson did the Skyray stuff. The whole host of merry pranksters in Cheltenham and the surrounding areas, all with a big kind of all massive Bunnymen fans, essentially. So there was Dave Batch, who ran the label, oversaw all that. And you could do any wacky project that you had an idea of. He'd go, yeah, let's do it. So we did the Coming Round the Callum CD. I put together a compilation of all Liverpool artists that were doing electronic music at the time. I did a few records for them, and he did like a series of 8-inch records that were kind of cut by hand lathe in New Zealand. 8x8 series. Yeah, there was 8 of them.
Wow.
Sky
Yeah, you
Ray.
have done a lot. Yeah, I've really collaborated with a lot of people as well and
Yeah,
played
yeah, yeah,
a lot of bands. And then I've got to ask about your because you're also called DJ Tempest when you're DJing. Where did
yeah.
it where did that name come from? It's like
From a fella called Tempo,
oh,
who goes back to the Eric's days, but he's from Keighley in Yorkshire. But yeah, he was kind of just one of well, he was actually he did all one of the people who did all the day-to-day repairs in Eric's. He did all for joinery or something needed fixing in Eric's. He was the
oh, I see. It's not Tempo of Shack.
no
No, so it's a
before
different like
yeah.
Tempo. Okay, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, basically around that time when I was became DJ Tempest, he was coming up. He was coming over to Liverpool to have nights out, and he would stay on my couch. And Sunday morning or Sunday lunchtime, I would bring him a cup of tea and some toast for his breakfast,
Yeah.
and I'd put some music on quietly to gently wake him up for the start of the Sunday.
Yeah.
And one day I put a house track on, and he jumped up off the couch and he said, "This is all right, this music, but it'll never be as good as the Clash, will it? The Clash always wins over any other type of music. This house music doesn't, hold a candle to the Clash." So I'm like, "I've just made you breakfast, so, served it up to you, and now I'm being told off in my own living room for the choice of music I've made in my own home." So, I mean, Tempo's real name is Stephen Tempest. So I said, right, if you're going to be like that, tell me off. I'm going to start releasing house music, and I'm going to use your name for it. To which he replied, "You better effing not." I said, "Well, I am, and you can't stop me." So that's how I became DJ Tempest.
Okay. And then Sue, are you still
To
friends?
wind up Tempo.
Okay. You're still friends with him? Does he still
Yeah,
come
as much as you can be. He's a very narky person.
And what about the Mindwinder? Is that a DJ name or just like a producer's name?
A producer's name, yeah. I mean, around that period, everyone just, if you were doing one style of music, you'd give yourself a different name to denote this was this. DJ Tempest was house music. The Mindwinder was techno. Well, the Mindwinder basically comes from there's a parody of religious cults called the Church of the Subgenius in America, and one of their weapons of the church is the Mindwinder missile. So Bob Dobbs is the fellow with the pipe. That's the leader of the Church of the Subgenius.
Oh,
just an advert in the 50s in America. So he's J.R. Bob Dobbs.
yeah.
And the Mindwinder was one of the missiles that doesn't do anything that the Church of the Subgenius deployed. So that's where that name came from. But that ended up coming out. I ended up doing a record which originally came out on Oka Records that was then licensed to a label in Detroit called K-Share, which was run by this woman, Kay Hand, who died.
That one, yeah.
She died 3 years ago, I think. But she's held up as a kind of like the first lady of Detroit techno. She led the way for women getting involved in techno music in Detroit, when it was very kind of much a boys' club, Um, so yeah, I did a record, a Mindwinder EP for her label in Detroit. So that was that. I've did a DJ Tempest record on a label in Holland.
Yeah.
Got to go and play in Amsterdam and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was again same as with groups. It was how I get to travel. It was through
But yeah, it's just I think
performing.
it's but the thing that I really find fascinating is you've done so much and you've done all these things, but for a say a regular music fan like myself, it's not so like someone unless I'm really like a dedicated one that knows everything that you've done. But I think inside, like if you're like the musicians or because I can tell from your Facebook page that they know you, they do know you, and they know what you've done, and they know what all these amazing
Yeah,
sort of
because I never shut up about it to them. Yeah, I'm on the Will Sargent had an LP live at the Bubble Bath, which was a club I ran in Liverpool. He played at the opening night as Glide. Me and Emma carried this very heavy old dentist chair up and down flights of stairs to get it into the club, so that he could sit in it. And then he put a load of screens in front, so no one could see that he was in this big heavy dentist chair. But we carried it in down this flight of stairs, even taking it into pieces. It was still weight. It's a big metal, heavy metal, old fashioned dentist chair, and it weighed a ton. Anyway, that was his live at the Bubble Bath LP, and I did the drum programming for his set.
yeah.
He said, "Oh, I forgot to put your name on the sleeve." I was like, "All right, thanks." so so I'm on, I'm on a few things.
Is
But
that
yeah, I mean, if Joe McKechnie at Bandcamp, you'll find all my most recent work, with artists from Japan, Switzerland,
yeah,
a lot of Liverpool writers who do spoken word music releases. I've got all kinds on the go.
yeah. So at least you've got that and everything that you've done are actually
Yeah,
on
but
your
I mean,
back.
it's just the way the music industry and the music business and the music world and the music culture operates now. But you always feel now that you're just a load of people who do music telling each other to listen to each other. It's just like, "Hi, I'm doing music," and someone will go, "Hi, I'm back at you. Hi, I'm doing music," and you go, "Okay, I'll try."
And then you swap, and then you sort of like
Yeah, but
try
it's kind
and
of like
get
that.
someone.
That's as far as the message reaches. It's kind of this, even though in theory, it's the internet has made everything available to everyone, and everyone has an equal platform, and you can get out there. It's actually closed things down because everyone just goes, "Oh, not him again.
Oh,
What's he done? What's he want us to listen to now?"
oh.
So that's the world that's the world of pain that I'm in.
So it's actually harder now, you'd say.
Yeah, because it's just there's no gatekeepers, there's no filter, there's no
Yeah,
everything comes at you all at once.
yeah.
There's just no time. But
Well, at least you're still out there and you're still doing all
yeah,
these.
yeah. If I could think of something else to do, I'd do it, but I can't.
Oh,
I'm stuck with it.
so I'm really glad. I'm really
Please
glad
listen. Please
that
listen.
because I mean it's still like I always say this, but it's just fascinating that and I'm glad that Ned actually sort of like introduced you to me and said that you've got to listen, you've got to know him, because even your name on Facebook is different. So it's like it's not even Joe McKechnie. So, so,
No,
so not many people know that you're.
marketing. I admit, marketing is not my strong point.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you this because you're both in sort of like the Manchester music scene and the Liverpool music scene. Um, what do you think is what is it about these cities that they're just so amazing when it comes to music? They produce a lot of amazing music and amazing musicians as well. I mean, you can't say that in every sort of like city in the UK or maybe in America or something.
Yeah, I don't
Some,
know. I mean, it ebbs and flows. I think. I mean, the Leeds has its moments. Bristol certainly always has something going on. Sheffield is that. Um,
well,
I don't
Manchester and
know.
Liverpool seem to be constant. They're always so like coming up with all these.
Yeah, I think just people not like making the life more interesting.
Yeah, because there must be some academics or like
If there's nothing to do, you create something to do. I mean, in Liverpool, it's always I think been a great mix between people who've arrived in Liverpool from outside, um, and that's happened constantly through the time I've been involved in music and culture in general. People come
yeah
from outside and see the potential in things that we often who are too close to it can't see how good it is or how it could be developed in a different direction and you can do something different with it. So there's always been that great mix, I think, of people who come. I mean, because a lot of people who come to Liverpool, for instance, to study or whatever, for whatever reason, a lot of them stay because they do find a vital creative culture that they can get
yeah
involved in. And
yeah
so that mix where people go, what you're doing there, you could also do this. And you go, oh, yeah, I never thought of that. And so I've got a lot of. I love that mixture of people of the community that I have in Liverpool, which is people from outside and people who've been here all our lives. It makes for a great international outlook.
yeah, and of course the same in Manchester as well. I mean, people
Yeah,
who come here, they just stay in Manchester. They don't want to leave. So,
yeah.
especially if you're creative, so like a musician or an artist or whatever. Um, I'm gonna
I,
ask.
I keep getting
Yeah,
dragged back.
go on.
I keep getting dragged back to Manchester.
Yeah. I mean, I love both Manchester and Liverpool, but I'm here because again,
Yeah,
it's because of Morrissey and the Smiths and the Stone
yeah,
Roses.
yeah. More the Smiths than. I mean, the first time I saw probably the only time I saw Oasis actually was they played the Crazy House supporting the Real People when I was DJing, and no one had heard of Oasis. They just knew they'd met the Real People and the Real People were helping them out at that. The story about they helped them out with the demos and
Yeah,
gave them a few pointers in how to write songs. You know, and they support. I was DJing with the Real People in the Crazy House here in Liverpool, and Oasis were the support. They just had a wall of noise, and they just had white lights behind them, just switched on, full on, constantly. All you could see was the silhouettes of them. Uh, I quite enjoyed it. Subsequently, I kind of just thought it was a bit, yeah, not for me.
oh not for you.
No.
But they were at the time they were sort of like seen as the new Beatles.
Yeah, that
They
that
were
that
sort of
that
like,
that doesn't do anything for me. That whole rehash the '60s,
oh,
right kind of cod
yeah.
psychedelic lyrics about this doesn't mean anything, or does it? You know, no, it doesn't. It's just nonsense.
Do you still DJ though? Do you still do a
I'd
lot?
like to. No one asked me. Last time I DJ'd was
Yeah.
before lockdown, and after the lockdown finished, the venue where I was DJing, it was a restaurant instead of a bar, so that was the end of that.
Oh, okay.
No, I'd like to, but yeah, I mean, there's two things. I don't go out most of the time unless someone makes me. I'm at home working on music that no one's going to listen to, and so yeah. So
Well,
usually, every time I do go out, I have a conversation with three or four people that could potentially take me to something new and different. But
yeah.
yeah, I go out once every 3 months, so
Because they can't find you. Is that maybe the
Yeah, I
reason?
need to go. Just need to go out more and hang out, and see
Yeah.
people on the scene. But yeah,
Because I mean, like I said, you are quite enigmatic. It's not like you post something and then that's it. A few days later, it's gone. It's like, and then you
yeah.
have it.
As I say, just like who's interested. I think people might be interested in this, and I think, nah, they're not. So I delete it.
So what's new? Well, what's like? Are there things coming up or
Well, look, the House of All thing will be
yeah,
out soon, I presume. And Jeff Young, who's one of the authors that I
yeah,
work
yeah.
with here in Liverpool, a writer. His his next book, Wild Twin, is out in September. I've just finished reading it, and it's absolutely fantastic. It needs to be made into a film as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So we're going to do some. He's going to read some.
Music.
I'm going to do some music, and he's going to do some spoken word extracts from Wild Twin. I am, I am actually going to DJ it. So he's an artist as well. He does collages, and he's got an exhibition of his collages coming up in
Yeah.
September, round with the book release, and I'm going to DJ. I think at that, so that'll be my next
So
DJ job. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, just I've got a big long list of people. I've got tracks to finish so that they can do a vocal on.
uh,
And yeah, I just if some basically I've got that many people that I'm going to be working with in the future that I tend to finish the tracks by the people who ask. If someone says, "Well, have you got that track? I'm going to be on." That's I'll go. You're interested? Okay.
you'll do it and you'll finish it.
That's something. That's something to do. There's other people who kind of go who never ask about where their track is. I go, okay, well, they're not forgotten, but they're at the bottom of
It's
the
so
road.
like yeah, the bottom.
Yeah, of the rotation, and they're not in my priority list.
Yeah, yeah. Are you gonna be at the Paul Simpson book event? Rough
Uh,
trade.
not planning on being, no. How long have we
No?
done?
Pardon?
How long have we been
Oh,
talking?
sorry. I'm just. Well, I've only got one question for you left. Are you going anywhere?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I've been to a couple of Paul's events. I don't,
Yeah.
um,
Well, I was sort of like thinking if you're going to the Paul Simpson book event at Rough Trade, then I might see you there again. Because
oh yeah,
that was,
possible. I'll never say never, but or we could meet up either side of
yeah,
it, possibly.
yeah. And before I let you go, I said I'm going to ask you this again. Do you ever get starstruck?
Oh, because of the Curtis Mayfield story.
Yes.
Okay, basically that it's the second time I was in the passage. Our tour manager was a fellow called Chaz Banks, who's a legend in Manchester to this day. His first roading job was the doors at the Roundhouse when he was a kid in London, and he was our tour manager. So after the passage finished, whenever he was on tour with someone and he was in Liverpool, he'd phone me up and say, I'm in the Empire, or I'm in the Manford Hall. Come down. I'm at to the sound check." And one afternoon he phoned me up and said, "I'm just in the Manford Hall, just a student union big venue, just across along the road from me. I'm just in the Manford Hall with Curtis Mayfield in the group. I'm tour managing them, and I'm the MC. I announced them on stage. Come down to the sound check. So I went down to the sound check, listened to Curtis and the group.
Wow.
Sound check. Sound check
Yeah.
finished. I went over to say hello, and Chaz says, "Oh, um, the students have got us a room to go to before the gig, but it's not here. It's in somewhere called the Everyman Bistro. Do you know where that is?" I was like, "Yeah, it's just down the road." He said, "Well, can you take us to it?" I said, "Yeah, of course I can." So we walked from Manford Hall to the Everyman Bistro and went in there. And the third
Yeah.
room, which was the smallest room, had private party on it, and it was just for Curtis and the group. And we went in
Yeah.
there, and so I'm stood there with a bottle of beer, and Chaz says to Curtis, "Joe's a musician." Curtis goes, "Oh, what do you what do you do? What are you doing?" And I just stood there with my brain screaming, "You're Curtis Mayfield. You're Curtis Mayfield." And I couldn't speak. Uh, Eventually, I said something. I don't know what, but it was like Curtis Mayfield is asking me about my music, not me asking him. So eventually, I got over it, and we just it was fantastic. Just
That's amazing. Yeah, you talk about Curtis Mayfield though as well.
so eventually we had a chat about music and everything else, and then we went back and we played a fantastic gig.
Yeah. Gosh.
But he was
Again,
he was there, he was there in a safari suit, like over the knee boots and jodhpurs.
wow. Wow. And again, I mean, it's such a shame that they didn't have mobile phones back then, so it's like
Yeah,
no record of things like that. I
yeah.
mean, it's one of the good things about nowadays. I mean, the technology is like if you see someone, if you see a musician, you can have a photo with them, and then it's like,
Well,
yes.
you certainly make full.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I mean, we did say. I mean, it's not. It's about an hour and a half, so it's like it's
Okay,
not 2 hours. So
yeah, and I need
hopefully,
to pay.
hopefully I'll see you at the
Well, yeah,
Wilson.
let's. What, next time you're in Liverpool, just let me know, and I'll come down and meet you.
Yeah, yeah, and then it would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice to meet up again and have
Yeah,
another photograph and thing.
yeah,
And thank you so much. I mean, I'm still so like amazed at all these things. I
yeah.
mean, the more
Don't
I
tell
think,
anyone about it. This isn't
well,
going. This isn't going online, is it?
there's,
Just me and you, isn't it?
there's like, well, thank you so much, Joe. And yeah,
Okay.
I'm really looking
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you again. And thanks for the two parts of the Joe McKechnie extravaganza. I'll see you again soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see
Okay.
you hopefully soon.
Bye.
Bye, Joe.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. Again, like what Aiden said, great stories and insights as previously. It's just absolutely amazing. I still can't believe it. I mean, it's like, I mean, how many of you like really have heard of Joe McKechnie? I mean, apart from whether if you're a musician, I'm sure you have done, and all his stuff. But yeah, it's DJ Tempest, the Mindwinder, Joe McKechnie with the Passage, and the Wild Swans as well. I mean, how incredible is that? So anyone who's got a copy of Incandescent, the big one with the book and everything, look up Joe McKechnie's name because he's credited in there because he played in some of the live ones. I haven't got a copy of it because that's quite expensive. But anyways, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. So I'll be back again next week for another episode of Ask the Drummer. Next week it's going to be an indie pop band drummer from America. So yeah, hopefully you'll come back and join me again. But for now, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, love music, love life, love, love, love drummers. They're absolutely amazing. We've got to find out more about them. Not just the singers and the guitarists, and we've got to know more about the drummers. So I hope to see you all again next week. Bye for now. Bye.